Hello, my name is Eric Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today I'll be talking about non-duality versus solipsism. Solipsism is the view or theory that we can only know of the mind's existence, and anything outside the mind, the external world, other people, we can't know if they really exist. We don't know and we can't know. It is the viewpoint, essentially, that I can only know that I exist, and I don't know and can't know if anything else really exists. In this viewpoint, you kind of get the philosophical brain in the box kind of scenario, where if there was a brain in the box and there was just input being put in through simulation, let's say, and so you were simulated sitting in a chair, so this feeling of sitting in a chair actually was just inputs in the mind. The chair itself, we don't know if it actually exists. Other people that you discuss or talk with, we don't know if they really exist. Now that's being simulated externally. If it was simulated internally, it'd be more like a dream. In the dream, I know I exist, but everything else are creations of my own mind, even though I don't know it. And so, in a somewhat solipsistic viewpoint, some people think that all other dream characters in the dream are NPCs. They don't really see, they don't really feel. They're just executing based on parameters. And so I only have this viewpoint, but they all don't really have a viewpoint. They're just machines running around. But this whole idea is only I know I exist. I don't know and can't know if others exist. And some solipsists take a step further and say the rest doesn't exist. I'm the only one who exists. Nothing else exists. And this was something Alan Watts had mentioned and said he thought it'd be interesting if there was a congress or convention of solipsists and they could all get together and argue who is the real one. And it's a funny viewpoint, which it seems to have some similarities with non-duality, because there is no other. But there's a hard deviation from non-duality in Advaita. Although in Advaita they'll say only the self exists, this self is not personal. It's not a me. It is not a center. It has no circumference, so it has no center. And this is the difference between non-duality and solipsism, really, because in solipsism there is this strong feeling that I exist. I know I exist. I am. I just don't know if anybody else exists. And so there's this I'm real, everything else is unreal or doesn't exist. And for non-duality, that I that's being referred to is also an illusion. For in non-duality, you would never say I exist. Not really. There is existence. There is existing. There is being. But the I, the me, arises afterwards as a thought. And so there isn't this division between I exist and I don't know if everyone else exists or everyone else doesn't exist that solipsists have. In non-duality, all of the world, including this body-mind, is just as illusory as everything else. Unlike the solipsists that would say, I know I exist, in non-duality, even that me doesn't exist. Because in solipsism, like I said, I know the mind exists. Anything outside the mind, I don't know it exists. And so for the solipsist, you are the center of the universe. But in non-duality, there's no center. There's no circumference. You can't be the center. And I find solipsism is rather egoic that way. They believe they are the center. And so there's a parting between solipsists and, I think, non-duality. Because for non-duality, they don't say, I mean, some non-dual traditions say the world doesn't exist, or, you know, whatever. But I would never say the world does not exist. This chair exists in the same way as this body-mind. It is all this. It's all Brahman. There's no saying I don't know this exists and I know that this mind exists. That isn't true in non-duality. It's that in the same way the mind exists, the chair exists. Because in non-duality, even the mind doesn't exist. I mean, the thinking mind. This might even be somewhat derived from Descartes. I think, therefore I am. A great misunderstanding, a plague upon the world, really, because thinking has nothing to do with being. I think, therefore I am is untrue. It's I am, and I have a brain, therefore I think. But it is not a saying the world is an illusion. You know, the other people are not seen as unreal, and that I am real the way solipsists would look at the world. They would go, I know I exist, but I don't know that exists. That's, you know, potentially not real. You know, in non-duality, both are the same. Both I and other are both illusory. For other arises only when there is a me. And the solipsists hold on to me, and so they have this me and other. I exist, everything else may not exist. But for non-duality, there's no me, so there's no other. Me and other are illusions that disappear, and all that's left is that which is non-dual, no other, not two. And so that is really the difference between solipsism and non-duality. If you got any questions, comments, please post below. I'd love to hear them. And, you know, until next time, thank you much.